Hey everyone, Disappointed Giant here. Before I start the video proper, I just want to take a minute to go off script and give a sincere thank you to everybody who has commented or watched or has interacted with me on my beginner's guide video. I've been humbled and just really excited to see that has reached so many people and that there have been so many folks that have gotten something out of that or have had a chance to share their own feedback and their own experience in the comment section. It's been great. I've been hearing from people who have bought the game like the day before they found the video to people who have been playing 5BC for years. Being able to chat with and see comments from people of all different skill levels has been amazing. So thank you. After posting that video, I started plotting out some more concrete ideas for future videos and came up with a rough outline of what's to come in the next several months. As we know, Dead Cells doesn't stop after finishing 0BC. I've seen people joke about 0BC being the tutorial of the game, but I think it's more fair for everyone to call it something like a prologue or the first chapter. I tried to cover a lot of the basic mechanics of the game in my beginner's guide to help people get through that first part, but there are still so many more things to talk about. I've gotten a lot of great feedback about people's challenges after clearing 0BC, so my plan is to release 3 more difficulty-based tutorials in the future, including this shorter video. There will be a video talking about some more advanced tips and strategies to help folks get through the mid-game of 2, 3, and 4BC. And then there will be a full 5BC tutorial and discussion video that will go in-depth about how to work towards getting a full clear, sharing the secrets and strategies of the 5BC spoiler content, and giving some of my personal advice for having more consistent and successful runs at the highest difficulty Dead Cells has to offer. So this is the first of those 3 videos. I'll say this is a cross between an epilogue to the beginner's guide and a brief 1BC tutorial instead of a true full guide. Before moving up through higher difficulties, there's some housekeeping that I think people should do to get more of the game's mechanics and systems on your side so you can set yourself up to have more resources available to you as the game goes on. There are a few changes in difficulty moving up from 0BC to 1BC. Most notably that biome transitions may have a single flask refill instead of a full one, and that bosses have different first phase attacks. Enemies also do more damage and have higher health pools. On the other side of this, the forge does open up a bit more, so you can fill up to 100% on the plus quality gauge, so the odds can be swayed a little bit more in your favor. All that said, let's have a quick refresher. If you've seen my beginner's guide, this may be familiar to you, but if you haven't watched it, I'd recommend checking it out since that has become part 1 of this tutorial series that I didn't know was going to be a series. In addition to being comfortable with the flow of the game, here are the things I recommend completing either while you're making your way through 0BC or have recently cleared it. 1. Get all of the movement runes so all traversal paths in the game are available to you. 2. Invest 500 cells into the forge to get 100% quality gear. 3. Unlock as many meta upgrades as possible while focusing on health flask, gold reserves, recycling, and the random starting weapons. 4. Experiment with a bunch of the game's items to see which playstyles resonate with you. And 5. Always go to the distillery instead of the High Peak Castle. Please don't do that, I'm totally kidding. So now there are some other blueprints and abilities that I recommend seeking out as these will help give you more options or more resources for your runs. The first is the Restock upgrade, which will show up in the collector's menu after spending your cells to unlock 20 items. This will allow you to re-roll the inventory in the shops up to 5 times to better your chances of finding something that you're looking for or that may help increase the quality of your build. Item prices get 40% more expensive with each re-roll though, so these prices can add up. While Restock alone is great, it has a partner in the merchandise category's blueprint, which is located in the graveyard. As you make your way through the level, you'll find that one of the side areas has the graveyard key in it. This required item will unlock the main door into the underground crypt area of the level. Somewhere in this underground section is a secret that has another key called the Architect's Key. Its location is random and can be found just about anywhere in the crypt area, so I recommend either turning on the option to highlight secrets in the accessibility menu or taking your time to scan all of the walls and floors after clearing the enemies out. Once you find the key, you can teleport back above ground and unlock the door all the way at the rightmost part of the level. The merchandise category's blueprint is in there. Once you unlock this ability, you can choose a category of what kinds of items will show up in the shops, either brutality, tactics, or survival, so you can weed out some of the random off-color items. There's also a miscellaneous option, so you can keep the shop pool totally random if you'd like. Between this and the Restock blueprint, you'll be well on your way to finding items that will fit with your build more consistently. If you haven't found it yet, there's an item called the Explorer's Rune that's located at the very end of the Forgotten Sepulchre level. This item is a permanent upgrade that will fill out the map after you've explored most of the level. This is really helpful because it will show any items, scrolls, and enemies that are still on the map while also filling out the paths that you haven't taken yet. It seems to me that you have to cover around 90% of the level before this activates. Another benefit to this is that if any of the enemies are starred, you'll be able to see them on the map. Starred enemies always have a bonus item that drops when you kill them. A scroll or scroll fragment, a legendary item, or rarest of all, a fragment of the Philosopher's Stone, which gives you a whopping 75,000 gold. I've been playing Dead Cells for a very long time, and I've found maybe 6 or 7 of these, ever. Even if it feels like you've fully cleared a level, it's worth taking a moment to scan everything after Explorer's Instinct fills in the map, just to be sure that there isn't one more enemy hiding somewhere before you leave the level with 59 kills. There are 2 mutations I recommend finding and considering as you continue your Dead Cells journey. One of them is Disengagement, which is found in the ceiling in the very beginning of the prisoner's quarters. You can use your Homunculus rune to pop off your head and climb up to the top to grab it. This mutation will save you from 1 death blow every biome, so is definitely worth picking up and using to help keep your runs going. At this point, I recommend using this instead of YOLO since it refreshes every level and does not lock a mutation slot. Disengagement does not protect against curse deaths though. The other mutation is called Gastronomy, and this is dropped by the Conjunctivius boss the 4th time you defeat it. This mutation increases the effectiveness of food, which can make a big difference when you're running low on health and you find some grub. With Gastronomy, the small food restores 25% instead of 15%, and the large restores 83% instead of 50%. In addition, if you don't need the food, recycling will give you a damage bonus that lasts for 5 full minutes. Even though this is a survival mutation, you can take this with any color build. In my beginner's guide, I recommended holding off on getting the backpack for a bit, but I think it's a solid idea to get that upgrade now if you haven't already. This will give you a spare slot that will allow you to store weapons in there, so you can either have a backup item to help you in different scenarios, or you can use one of the backpack mutations to utilize the items in the backpack without actually needing to put it in one of your main slots. For Brutality, the mutation is called Porcupack, and it allows you to do melee damage with the weapon in your backpack when you roll. Tactics has Acrobatapack, which will fire the ranged weapon in your backpack when using one of your other ranged weapons. And finally, Survival has Armadillo Pack, which will activate a parry from the shield in your backpack when you roll. All of these are quite good in their own ways and only serve to open up more of each style's gameplay by giving an extra way to either do damage or protect yourself while playing. It's worth noting that you can only store main hand weapons in the backpack, so no skills or traps. You also can't store the Giant Killer or any two-handed weapons in there. I should also mention that if the Curse Sword is in your backpack, you will die immediately on taking damage, even though it's not something you're actively using, so be careful. I recommended filling the forge up to 100% plus quality before moving on from 0 BC, and I recommend something similar as you start to move up in difficulty. The plus forge caps at 50% on 0 BC and 100% on 1 BC, so it's worth investing some cells into plus quality as you're able to. I don't feel like there's as much of a hard cap on this for me as there is for filling the plus forge on 0 BC, but I do recommend starting to tuck away some of those 3,000 cells in here as your runs go on. I'll get into this more in my eventual mid-game tutorial video, but I don't recommend going up to 2 BC until you have at least 50% of the plus forge filled up. That will allow you to upgrade some of your items to an S quality item at the minor forge between levels, which is a significant bump. If you're only at plus quality, going up to S is an increase of 4 total gear levels, which is huge. There are some other changes when moving up to 1 BC, such as the addition of new enemies like the invisible knife thrower, other enemies being added into the biomes, and having a couple of additional paths you can take in the 2 optional biomes. On 1 BC and higher, you can go from the corrupted prison to the ramparts, and from the prison depths to the ancient sewers. This effectively crosses over the promenade and sewers paths to allow you some more variety in your runs. The biomes I just mentioned, the corrupted prison and the prison depths, are smaller levels that are available from most of the second level biomes and require the spider rune to access. These levels both start with an optional curse chest, have 1 shop in them, and offer a couple of free items if you get a key that's dropped by one of the enemies in the level. I don't recommend taking these paths unless you either want to take one of those alternate exits I just mentioned, or more importantly, are going to take the curse chest. The extra scrolls from the curse chests in these biomes are super important as the game goes on, but in both 0 and 1BC, I think they're optional, so gamble at your own profit or peril. If you've been following my advice this far, you've been spending a lot of cells on upgrades and necessities and have been putting in some great work on making progress. Now's a good time to treat yourself to a couple of outfits if you haven't yet, because you and the beheaded deserve it. My final piece of advice here and in all of my future guides will be the same as it was in my beginner's guide. Don't stop here. I'm just one person on the internet who has one point of reference of my one individual Dead Cells experience. I do and talk about the things that have been helpful to me. I look at learning a game as putting together pieces of a puzzle from different pictures. If this guide ends up being one of those pieces for you, then I've done my part and I'm glad that I could be of service. If not, I encourage you to keep on learning and seeking out other information that will be a better fit for you. This was a bit of a shorter guide, but hopefully there was something here that will help you continue on through your Dead Cells journey. Even though on paper the increase from 0BC to 1BC may not look like much, in practice it can be a noticeable hurdle. For those of us who are struggling on 1BC, here's the way I see it. If you've beaten 0BC, have been playing a bunch of Dead Cells, are actively looking for more information, and somehow have found your way over to this video and have made it this far in, you're already well on your way to getting that first 1BC clear. I may not know you, and I'm not watching you as you're playing, but I can confidently say, you got this. I'm here to help, so if you have any specific questions or feedback, then leave a comment and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. In addition, for those of us who have beaten 1BC, feel free to leave a comment if there are any other tips you'd like to share with the community about what helped you get over that 1BC bump. As always, thank you for watching, and good luck out there.